6 months had passed since Atlantis tore through the collapsing dimensional breach, and Colonel John Sheppard had almost convinced himself that the Federation universe was just another impossible memory in a career full of them. Almost. The city floated in orbit above New Athos. Teyla's people resettled on their ancestral world after years of Wraith displacement. Through the control room's panoramic windows, the planet's twin moons rose over green continents, peaceful in a way Pegasus rarely allowed. 3 ZPMs hummed at full capacity, shields stood ready at a moment's notice, and the Wraith, for once, were scattered and disorganized after the expedition's 6-month offensive. Everything seemed normal, until Dr. Rodney McKay sprinted into the control room at 0400 hours, saying tablet clutched in trembling hands, and the particular expression that meant physics was doing something terrible. "We have a problem," McKay announced, which in McKay speak meant catastrophe was imminent. Sheppard looked up from mission reports, coffee halfway to his lips. "Good morning to you too, Rodney. What kind of problem are we talking? Scale of 1 to Wraith Hive on our doorstep." Try Ancient Database just unlocked itself and revealed the Federation wasn't an accident. McKay thrust the tablet at him, ancient text scrolling across the screen alongside what looked like star charts showing 2 overlapping galaxies, Pegasus and somewhere else entirely. Major Lorne moved from tactical, reading over Sheppard's shoulder. "Sir, is that Federation space?" Sheppard confirmed. "I'm recognizing the stellar cartography from Enterprise sensor logs he'd studied obsessively after their return." "Why does the Ancient Database have maps of another universe?" "Because the Ancients knew about them," McKay said, pulling up more files with frantic gestures. "These entries were encrypted behind 7 layers of security I've been trying to crack for years. They unlocked themselves 3 hours ago when some kind of countdown timer hit 0. His voice pitched higher with stress. "A countdown the Ancients set 10 million years ago." Dr. Radek Zelenka appeared on the tablet screen via video link from the database lab, looking equally sleep-deprived and terrified. "Rodney is unfortunately correct. The files reference Federation space by designation Dimension Alterra-7. The Ancients catalogued at least 23 parallel realities and built technology to bridge them." "Why?" Sheppard demanded, military mind jumping to strategic implications. The Ancients had explored everything, but deliberately building dimensional bridges seemed excessive even for them. "Mutual defense," Zelenka replied, Czech accent thickening with exhaustion. "The database describes multiversal threat assessment protocols. If any reality faced extinction-level danger, allied dimensions could provide reinforcement." McKay reclaimed his tablet, swiping through ancient schematics that made Sheppard's head hurt. "The Ancients apparently believed that some threats, Wraith, Ori, things we haven't encountered yet, could spread across dimensional barriers if left unchecked. They built failsafes, not backdoors between realities that activate when specific conditions are met." "What conditions?" Sheppard asked, though dread was already settling in his gut. "Massive dimensional breach followed by successful transit of major population center," McKay read from the database. "Atlantis crossing into Federation space and returning triggered the countdown. We proved dimensional travel was possible and survivable." He looked up, fear stark on his face. "We activated their contingency protocol." The control room fell silent, except for the omnipresent hum of ancient technology. Through the windows, New Athos rotated peacefully, unaware that 10 million years of careful planning had just come to fruition because one city ship got lost and found its way home. "What happens when the countdown reaches 0? Lorne asked, though his hand had already moved to his sidearm, marine instinct responding to threat assessment. Zelenka pulled up a new display, and every console in the control room suddenly lit with ancient warnings. The countdown reached 0:90 minutes ago. A new dimensional bridge is opening, but this time it is not random hyperspace accident. His face went pale. It is deliberate ancient construction activating across both universes simultaneously. On the main display, sensors showed something impossible forming in high orbit above New Athos, a stable wormhole that wasn't connected to the Stargate network. Exotic particles streamed from the aperture in patterns McKay's equations recognized from their transit through the previous breach. But these were ordered, controlled, sustained by technology broadcasting ancient identification codes from somewhere beyond. Where does it lead? Sheppard moved to the central console, the city responding to his ancient gene by feeding him tactical data through biosensors. The wormhole felt wrong. Not hostile, but profoundly other. Reality from somewhere else bleeding into Pegasus space. Federation territory, McKay confirmed, running scans. Alpha Quadrant, specifically. The aperture is opening in 2 locations simultaneously, here and in Federation space near coordinates that correspond to... He stopped, fingers freezing on the tablet. Correspond to what, Rodney? Earth, McKay whispered. Federation Earth. The wormhole is opening right next to their homeworld. Before Sheppard could process the implications, Chuck's voice cut through from communications, on carrying the same controlled panic he'd used when announcing Wraith hive ships. Colonel, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming through the wormhole. Audio and visual. It's... He paused, adjusting his headset. Sir, it's Captain Picard. The main view screen flickered to life, and there he was. Jean-Luc Picard, standing on Enterprise's bridge, older and more tired than 6 months ago, but unmistakably the same man who'd defied Starfleet Command to help Atlantis escape. Behind him, the bridge crew moved with controlled urgency, red alert lighting mixing with the steady glow of active stations. Colonel Sheppard, Picard said, voice carrying across dimensional barriers with crystal clarity. I apologize for the dramatic contact, but we have a situation that requires immediate discussion. Captain. Sheppard felt tension ease fractionally. Whatever crisis was unfolding, at least they were facing it with allies. We're detecting the dimensional aperture from our end. Our database says the ancients built this deliberately. As does ours, Picard replied. And Sheppard noticed Data standing at Ops, the android's pale face focused on readings. Approximately 2 hours ago, every Federation sensor array detected massive subspace distortion forming near Earth. When it stabilized into a wormhole, our scans detected technology matching the signatures we recorded from Atlantis. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Indeed, we have a more immediate problem than ancient urban planning, Commander Riker's voice cut in from Enterprise, tension evident even across dimensional barriers. Approximately 45 minutes ago, 3 unidentified vessels emerged from the wormhole into Federation space. We engaged them 15 minutes ago. The Enterprise view screen split, and Sheppard's blood went cold. The secondary feed showed Wraith dart fighters strafing a Federation colony, their organic hulls unmistakable, culling beams activating to dematerialize screaming civilians into storage. Wraith, Teyla breathed from where she'd entered the control room, her connection to the species allowing her to sense them even through the view screen. They followed the dimensional signature. 3 darts are bad, Sheppard said, mind already calculating response options. But manageable. Captain, are you detecting any hive ships on your side? Picard's expression darkened. Long-range sensors show a massive organic vessel approaching the wormhole from your universe. Our classification systems have no reference, but based on your expedition's reports, hive ship, Sheppard finished. A Wraith hive discovering a stable wormhole to an entire universe of unsuspecting humans was nightmare fuel. How long until it arrives at the aperture? 6 hours at current speed, Data reported with android precision. However, Colonel, we have detected additional vessels emerging from this side. They are not Wraith. The screen shifted again, and McKay made a strangled sound of recognition and horror. A perfect geometric cube, dark gray with green running lights and alcove patterns, hung in Federation space near the wormhole, smaller than the cube they'd destroyed 6 months ago, but unmistakably Borg. A Borg sphere, Geordi's voice came through, the chief engineer clearly at his station. It detected the dimensional aperture and came to investigate. When it encountered the Wraith darts, both species ignored each other and went straight for the wormhole. They're exploring, McKay said, professional assessment cutting through his fear. The Borg want to assimilate whatever's on the other side. The Wraith want to feed. Both species just discovered an all-you-can-eat buffet in another dimension. Sheppard watched the tactical display update with contacts from both sides. Wraith hive ship approaching from Pegasus. Borg sphere already in Alpha Quadrant. And between them, on a stable ancient wormhole that wouldn't collapse because it wasn't natural, it was engineered to stay open. "McKay, can we close the wormhole?" Sheppard asked, though he already knew the answer from the database files. "Not without destroying whatever ancient technology is maintaining it, and I have no idea where that technology even is." McKay pulled up schematics showing the wormhole's structure, vastly more complex than a normal Stargate connection. This isn't a simple point-to-point bridge. The ancients built a dimensional gateway using principles I don't fully understand. It's sustained by power sources in both universes simultaneously. "Then we adapt our strategy," Picard said, command authority cutting through the crisis. "Captain, I propose immediate military coordination. We share tactical data on both threats. I establish joint command protocols and prepare defensive positions on both sides of the aperture." "Agreed," Sheppard replied. "But we need to understand what we're facing. Captain, the Federation has never fought the Wraith. They're not like the Borg. They don't assimilate, they feed. Their technology is organic, regenerates damage, and they view humans as livestock." "And Atlantis has limited experience with the Borg," Picard countered. "They adapt to every weapon within seconds, possess collective intelligence across all drones, and will not stop until they've assimilated every technological advantage you possess." On the screen, the Borg sphere began moving toward the wormhole with geometric precision. In Pegasus space, Atlantis sensors tracked the approaching hive ship, one of the smaller ones, maybe 800 meters, but still carrying thousands of Wraith and enough firepower to sterilize planets. "We're going to have to fight each other's nightmares," Sheppard said, the tactical situation crystallizing. "Federation forces holding the line against Wraith in Alpha Quadrant, Atlantis engaging Borg in Pegasus." "A test," Teyla observed. Her tactical mind evolved from years of asymmetric warfare against superior numbers. "The ancients built this bridge for mutual defense. Now we must prove we can defend each other's realities, not just our own." Picard nodded slowly, understanding the weight of ancient design. "Commander Data, begin compiling all tactical data on Borg adaptive capabilities for transmission to Atlantis. Include shield modulation frequencies, weapon rotation protocols, and every countermeasure we've developed." "Zelenka, same thing for Wraith technology," Sheppard ordered. "Everything we know about their regenerative hulls, jamming capabilities, and culling beam defenses. If the Federation's going to fight them, they need our playbook." "Colonel," Worf's voice carried across the channel, Klingon warrior fully engaged, "what is the most effective weapon against Wraith vessels?" "Ancient drone weapons," Sheppard replied. "They're non-adaptive, use exotic energy the Wraith can't counter, and hit hard enough to punch through regenerative armor. But we can't exactly loan you a city's worth of drones." "Actually," McKay interrupted, fingers flying across his tablet with manic energy, "the database unlocks include something called Ancient Defense Protocol 7. It's a, oh my god, it's a network integration system." "In English, Rodney," Sheppard snapped. The ancients built technology to link their defense systems across dimensional boundaries," McKay explained, pulling up schematics that made even Data lean forward with interest. "Stargates in both universes were designed to interface with Federation transporter technology. With proper modifications, we could create a real-time tactical network, sensor sharing, weapons coordination, even personnel transfer between realities during combat." Picard exchanged glances with Riker, both officers recognizing the strategic implications. "You're proposing a fully integrated defense network spanning 2 universes. The computational requirements alone are exactly what Data's positronic brain and our ancient systems were designed to handle," McKay finished. "Captain, the ancients planned this. They knew that someday, allied realities would need to fight together. They gave us the tools." On Atlantis sensors, the Wraith hive ship had changed course, no longer approaching the wormhole directly, but vectoring toward New Athos. They detected the expedition's defensive posture and decided to test Atlantis's willingness to protect Federation space by threatening Pegasus worlds. Simultaneously, Enterprise sensors showed the Borg sphere accelerating toward the wormhole, intent on reaching Pegasus before Atlantis could mount effective resistance. "They're forcing us to choose," Lorne observed. "Defend our own people or protect the gateway." No, Sheppard said, seeing the ancient strategy with sudden clarity. They're proving why this network exists. We can't defend both universes alone. But together, well, we can be in two places at once, Picard finished. Dr. McKay, Commander Data, how quickly can you establish this network? Data's fingers moved across his console with inhuman speed. Preliminary calculations suggest 47 minutes to establish basic sensor integration, 3 hours for weapons coordination, and approximately 8 hours for full personnel transport capability. The Hive ship reaches New Athos in 5 hours, Teyla reported. The Borg sphere will enter Pegasus in 4. Then we work fast, Sheppard said. Captain, I'm sending you our best people. Dr. Zelenka will coordinate with your engineering team. Major Lorne will liaise with your tactical staff. And I'm authorizing full database access to Commander Data. The Ancients clearly intended this cooperation. And I'm dispatching personnel to Atlantis, Picard replied. Lieutenant Commander LaForge to assist with network integration. Lieutenant Worf to coordinate defensive strategies. The Enterprise will hold position at the wormhole's Alpha Quadrant aperture as command center. Atlantis will defend the Pegasus side, Sheppard confirmed. We'll create a fortress at both ends. Through the view screen, Sheppard watched Picard's expression shift from crisis management to something deeper. The recognition that 6 months ago, he'd defied Starfleet Command to save people he barely knew. Now those same people were preparing to defend Federation worlds with the same commitment. Colonel, Picard said quietly, when you returned to Pegasus, I wondered if we'd made the right choice, if the risk to my crew and career was justified. And now? Sheppard asked. Now I know we were both following the same ancient plan without realizing it, Picard replied. Building trust that would be needed when the real crisis came. The Wraith Hive ship adjusted course again, this time definitely heading for New Athos. Sheppard felt the city respond to his unconscious tension, power routing to shield generators and drone weapons. Let's get to work, Captain. We've got 4 hours to build a defense network and prove the Ancients knew what they were doing. Make it so, Picard replied. Enterprise out. The ancient database chamber hummed with overlapping energy signatures from 2 universes as Dr. Rodney McKay and Commander Data stood before holographic displays showing dimensional mathematics that would have made Einstein weep. Geordi LaForge materialized on the transporter pad behind them, visor already scanning the ancient technology with visible fascination. Incredible, Geordi breathed, moving toward the central console where McKay's hands flew across controls. The power distribution network is completely non-linear. Every conduit can reroute in microseconds. Yes, the Ancients were brilliant, McKay said impatiently. Can we focus on the part where we need to integrate 10-million-year-old dimensional bridge technology with your Federation transporters before the Borg assimilate Pegasus? Data tilted his head, processing ancient schematics at android speed. Dr. McKay, the integration protocols you've identified appear designed specifically to interface with matter-energy conversion systems similar to our transporters. The probability of coincidental compatibility is approximately 1 in 4.7 billion. Not coincidence, McKay muttered, pulling up more files. The Ancients mapped Federation technology development 10 million years in advance. They knew exactly what you'd invent because they'd already seen parallel evolution in other dimensions. He pointed at a display showing transporter theory alongside ancient beaming technology. Look, your Heisenberg compensators? The Ancients built something identical because matter-energy conversion follows universal physical laws across realities. Geordi leaned over the console, a golden visor reflecting holographic light. So, when the Ancients designed this network, they were future-proofing it for civilizations that didn't exist yet. Exactly, McKay confirmed. And if we can synchronize Atlantis' ancient sensors with Enterprise's navigational deflector, we create a real-time tactical overview spanning both universes. Every Borg movement in Pegasus, every Wraith ship in Federation space, all visible to both command centers simultaneously. Data's fingers moved across his own portable interface, processing integration equations. The subspace carrier wave frequency requires modification to penetrate dimensional barriers. However, the ancient gateway is already generating appropriate resonance. We simply need to piggyback our sensor data on their existing infrastructure. Which is easier said than done when said infrastructure was built by ascended beings who thought in 17 dimensions, McKay shot back. But his hands never stopped working, ancient and Federation technology beginning to merge under dual expertise. On Enterprise's bridge, Picard watched the main view screen split into quadrants showing feeds from both universes. In one section, Atlantis floated above New Athos with shields at maximum, drone weapons armed. Another showed Enterprise holding position at the wormhole's Alpha Quadrant mouth, flanked by 2 Miranda-class support vessels Starfleet had dispatched. The third displayed the approaching Wraith hive ship, organic hull pulsing with bioluminescence. The fourth tracked the Borg sphere as it accelerated toward Pegasus, green lights visible across geometric surfaces. "Captain," Worf reported from Tactical, having beamed to Atlantis 30 minutes ago and now transmitting from their control room. Colonel Sheppard reports his drone weapons are effective against Borg adaptive shields. However, he estimates only 400 drones remaining after recent Wraith engagements, insufficient to destroy a sphere. "Then we supplement ancient weapons with Federation firepower," Picard replied. "Commander Riker, status on fleet reinforcements?" Riker checked his display. "The Sovereign-class Valiant is 6 hours out. The Defiant-class Sao Paulo 4 hours. Admiral Nechayev is dispatching additional vessels, but..." He paused delicately. She's asking pointed questions about why we're coordinating with unauthorized dimensional contacts. Tell the Admiral that the Borg and Wraith don't particularly care about authorization procedures," Picard said dryly. "We're facing multiversal incursion. Protocol is secondary to survival." On Atlantis, Sheppard stood in the control room coordinating defensive positions with Lieutenant Worf, finding the Klingons' tactical thinking refreshingly direct after years of fighting an enemy that treated humans as food. "The Borg will target Atlantis first," Worf stated, studying the ancient city's schematics with professional appreciation. "They will recognize it as the most technologically advanced target. Assimilating this city would give them knowledge of ancient systems." "Which is exactly what we can't let happen," Sheppard agreed. If the Borg get even one drone aboard Atlantis and download the database, they would gain access to dimensional travel, ancient weapons, and knowledge of multiple realities," Worf finished. "Unacceptable." Teyla entered from the balcony, having just finished coordinating evacuation of New Athos's coastal settlements. "The Athosians are moving to the mountain caves. If the Wraith reach the surface, they will find only empty villages." "Good," Sheppard said, "because that hive isn't stopping for sightseeing. They detected the wormhole, probably figured out it leads to an entire universe of fresh feeding grounds, and now they're coming to investigate." "They will be cautious," Teyla observed, her empathic connection to the Wraith providing tactical insight. "The Wraith sense something wrong about the dimensional gateway. It frightens them." Worf's eyebrow raised. "They are afraid?" "The Wraith fear what they do not understand," Teyla explained. "For 10,000 years, they have been the apex predators of Pegasus. Now they encounter technology even they recognize as beyond them." She pointed at the approaching hive on sensors. "That ship comes not to feed, but to eliminate a threat." In Enterprise's engineering section, Geordi and Zelenka worked in tandem, the Czech scientist's theoretical brilliance complementing Geordi's practical engineering genius. Together, they'd already reduced Data and McKay's 8-hour estimate to 5. "The primary challenge," Zelenka explained, hands moving across an ancient interface that Geordi's visor revealed, was actually reconfiguring its structure to match his thought patterns, is synchronizing transport protocols. Now, Federation transporters disassemble matter at quantum level. Ancient beaming technology works on different principles. It creates temporary hyperspace bubble and moves entire object without disassembly. Different methods, same result, moving people from point A to point B, Geordi observed. But if we're trying to transport someone from one universe to another through that wormhole, we must use ancient principles for dimensional transit, Federation technology for molecular stability, Zelenka finished. The hybrid system will allow us to send personnel and equipment between realities in combat situations. Imagine, Atlantis needs medical support. We beam Dr. Crusher through dimensional gateway in seconds. Geordi grinned despite the crisis. Or Atlantis needs more firepower. We transport photon torpedoes directly into their weapons bay. Now you are thinking like an ancient, Zelenka said with Eastern European satisfaction. Back in the database chamber, Data's positronic brain achieved breakthrough synthesis. Dr. McKay, I believe I have identified the central coordination node for the ancient network. It is not a physical location. It is a distributed quantum processor existing simultaneously in both dimensions. McKay looked up sharply. You're saying the ancients built a multiversal computer? Precisely. The network's intelligence is not housed in Atlantis or any Federation facility. It exists in the dimensional membrane itself, processing data from both realities and coordinating defensive responses. Data pulled up quantum analysis showing consciousness patterns embedded in exotic particles. Yes, in essence, the gateway is alive. Oh, that's just perfect, McKay muttered. We're trying to interface with sentient infrastructure built by ascended beings who probably thought linear time was quaint. However, Data continued, if we can establish communication protocols with this intelligence, it may actively assist our integration efforts. The ancients designed it to help their allies coordinate defense. McKay stared at the quantum patterns, seeing something he'd missed before. Data, those consciousness patterns, they're not random. They're responding to our work. The gateway is watching us figure this out. And approving, Data confirmed. Integration efficiency has increased 17% in the last 4 minutes. The ancient intelligence is optimizing our efforts. Through Atlantis's windows, so the first visual confirmation of the Borg sphere appeared as a dark geometric shape against Pegasus stars, still 3 hours out but close enough for optical detection. On Enterprise's view screen, 3 more Wraith darts emerged from the wormhole into Federation space, immediately vectoring toward the nearest colony world. Captain, Riker reported, the Wraith fighters are ignoring our hails and heading straight for Vega Colony. Population 12,000. Intercept course, Picard ordered. Mr. Worf, can we transport those Wraith pilots out of their fighters? From Atlantis, Worf's voice responded, Negative, Captain. Wraith darts are living ships. The pilot is integrated into organic systems. Transporting would kill both. Then we destroy them, Picard said grimly. Fire at will. Enterprise opened up with phaser arrays, quantum torpedoes streaking toward the Wraith darts. The organic fighters juked with impossible agility, their living hulls sensing phaser locks and evading with biological instinct rather than computer calculation. They're fast, Riker observed as 2 torpedoes missed. Faster than anything we've encountered. The Wraith evolved their technology through 10,000 years of warfare, Worf explained. Their ships think. They do not follow predictable patterns. One dart took a glancing phaser hit, organic armor burning but already regenerating. It rolled with the impact and fired back, green energy beam lancing toward Enterprise's saucer section. Shields holding, Tactical reported. Wraith weapons operating on similar principles to disruptors but with biological energy component. Picard watched the engagement with calculating eyes. Oh, fast, adaptive, regenerative enemies that treated combat like hunting. The Federation had faced many threats but never predators that had perfected killing over millennia. We need those sensor networks online, he said quietly. The integration came online like a symphony of ancient and modern technology achieving sudden harmony. In Atlantis's control room, every console simultaneously lit with Federation sensor data, Enterprise's tactical displays, Starfleet communication channels, even internal ship status readouts appeared alongside ancient holographics in seamless overlay. It's working, McKay transmitted from the database chamber, voice tight with exhausted triumph. The ancient intelligence accepted our protocols. We have full network integration. On Enterprise's bridge, the main view screen exploded into unprecedented detail. Atlantis's sensors revealed the Borg sphere's internal structure, alcoves, power distribution nodes, even individual drone signatures visible through ancient scanning technology that penetrated adaptive shielding as if it weren't there. Extraordinary, Data observed, golden fingers flying across Ops console processing the flood of data. Ancient sensors operate on quantum entanglement principles. The Borg adaptive shielding cannot block observation at subatomic level. Which means we can see everything they're doing, Riker said, leaning forward. Every adaptation, every tactical adjustment, every weakness, Picard finished. Commander, this changes the engagement parameters significantly. In Atlantis's chair room, Sheppard felt the network integration through his neural link with the city. Suddenly, he wasn't just controlling ancient drones. He could see Enterprise's tactical situation, monitor Wraith movements in Alpha Quadrant, or even access Starfleet communication frequencies. The chair was translating Federation data into formats his ancient gene could process. "This is insane," he muttered, watching battle data from 2 universes flow through his consciousness. "I can see the Borg sphere's power distribution. McKay, are you seeing this?" "Confirmed," McKay replied, now monitoring from Atlantis' control room with Zelenka, while Data and Geordi continued optimizing the network. The sphere's central plexus is routing 73% of power to forward shields. They're expecting frontal assault. "Then we give them something else," Sheppard said, feeling 400 ancient drones respond to his thoughts. "Captain Picard, I'm transmitting drone flight plans. And we coordinate strikes. Your phasers on their forward shields while my drones hit from ventral and dorsal angles simultaneously." "Understood, Colonel." Picard's voice came through the network with crystal clarity, as if he were standing in the same room. "Enterprise will draw their attention." The Borg sphere crossed into Pegasus space through the wormhole, green lights pulsing across geometric surfaces as it detected Atlantis. The collective mind processed this new reality, cataloging star systems, identifying technological signatures, calculating assimilation priorities. The ancient city registered as supreme target. "We are the Borg." The transmission cut across all frequencies in both universes, emotionless and absolute. "You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile." "Yeah, we've heard that before," Sheppard muttered. Through the chair, he launched 200 drones in carefully calculated attack vectors. Not straight-line approaches the Borg could predict, but spiraling patterns that would converge from multiple angles simultaneously. Enterprise opened fire from Alpha Quadrant, phasers and quantum torpedoes streaming through the wormhole to strike the sphere's forward sections. The Borg shields adapted within seconds, Federation weapons losing effectiveness as the collective processed and countered. But the adaptation pulled power from other shield sections, exactly as Sheppard's ancient sensors detected. "Now," he transmitted. Ancient drones struck from above and below, golden weapons punching through weakened shields at near light speed. 12 direct hits, 12 sections of Borg hull exploding, drones venting into space, yet technology torn apart by weapons the collective had never encountered in either universe. The sphere adjusted, routing power to reinforce damaged sections. But that left flanks exposed to Enterprise's renewed assault. Picard's tactical officer rotated phaser frequencies, exploiting the 3-second window before Borg adaptation. "They're caught between 2 tactical doctrines," Worf observed from Atlantis, watching the engagement with warriors' appreciation. "Federation rapid frequency rotation and ancient overwhelming force. The collective cannot optimize for both simultaneously." "How long until they adapt?" Teyla asked. "Against ancient weapons?" McKay checked his readouts. "Based on our previous engagement, maybe 90 seconds. Against Federation weapons with ancient sensor data, telling us exactly where to shoot? Yet they're adapting, but we're adapting faster." In the sphere's central plexus, 100 Borg drones processed combat data with collective consciousness. The ancient technology operated on principles outside their experience, quantum-level weapon systems that couldn't be conventionally shielded against. The Federation vessels coordinated with impossible precision, suggesting intelligence sharing beyond normal subspace capabilities. The collective concluded. The targets had achieved tactical synthesis. Adaptation would require assimilating this synthesis to understand it. "Captain, the Borg are changing tactics," Data reported as the sphere suddenly reversed course, heading not toward Atlantis but back through the wormhole toward Federation space. "They are withdrawing from Pegasus." "Not withdrawing," Picard corrected, seeing the strategic shift. "Changing targets. They've determined that assimilating Federation technology first will help them counter ancient weapons." "Enterprise, fall back," Sheppard ordered, seeing the same tactical reality. "That sphere is coming through hot and it knows you're the softer target." But before Enterprise could maneuver, the sphere emerged from the wormhole and immediately launched transport beams, not toward Enterprise, but toward the Miranda-class support vessels flanking it. "They're beaming drones aboard the USS Reliant," Tactical shouted. On Reliant's bridge, red alert klaxons shrieked as Borg materialization sounds echoed through corridors. Captain Harrison grabbed his phaser. "All hands, repel boarders. Engineering, emergency site-to-site transport. Beam the Borg into space." But the Borg had adapted. Their transport inhibitors activated faster than Federation countermeasures. Within 30 seconds, 12 drones had established beachhead in engineering, cutting through security officers with cybernetic precision. "Atlantis, we need that personnel transport capability now," Picard transmitted urgently. "The Reliant is being overrun." In the database chamber, Geordi and Zelenka made final adjustments. "Dimensional transport is online," Geordi confirmed, "but we haven't tested it with living subjects." "No time for tests," Sheppard cut in. "Ronon, you're up. Geordi, lock onto his signal and beam him to Reliance engineering deck." Ronon Dex stood on Atlantis's transporter pad, particle magnum charged and expression eager. The Satadan had spent 7 years being hunted. Now he got to do the hunting. Or, about time I killed something new. "Energizing," Geordi announced. The Federation transporter engaged, but modified by ancient dimensional technology. Ronon's form shimmered with familiar golden Federation sparkle, but overlaid with blue ancient energy as his pattern was routed through the wormhole itself. For one impossible moment, he existed in both universes simultaneously. Then, he materialized on Reliance engineering deck behind 3 Borg drones advancing on the warp core. Ronon's particle magnum fired point-blank into the first drone's cranial implants. The Borg collapsed, cybernetic systems overloaded by particle acceleration the collective had no reference for. The second drone turned, mechanical arm extending. But Ronon was already moving. Satadan combat training making him a blur as he dodged the assimilation tubules and fired twice more. "Particle weapon technology detected," the remaining drones transmitted, adapting. "Yeah, good luck with that," Ronon growled, switching to the ancient Earth pistol Sheppard had given him last year. Bullets, simple kinetic projectiles the Borg consistently underestimated. 3 shots, 3 drones down. Reliance security teams stared at the leather-clad warrior who'd appeared from nowhere and eliminated the Borg threat in seconds. "I'm with Atlantis," Ronon said, by way of introduction. "You got more?" Back on Enterprise, Picard watched sensor data showing Borg drone signatures winking out across Reliant. "Colonel, I'm your man is effective." "Ronon's had practice killing things that think they can't be killed," Sheppard replied. "We're sending more teams through. Teyla, Major Lorne, coordinate with Starfleet security. Any ship that gets boarded, you beam in and clean house." "With pleasure," Lorne confirmed, already assembling his Marines. The Borg sphere, recognizing that boarding actions were being countered faster than adaptation allowed, shifted tactics again. It launched cutting beams at Enterprise and the support vessels simultaneously, attempting to disable ships before assimilation. "Shields at 72%, Enterprise Tactical reported as emerald energy raked across the saucer section. "Return fire, all weapons," Picard ordered. "And route our shield harmonics through the ancient network. Let Atlantis' sensors tell us exactly how to rotate frequencies." McKay's voice came through. "Sending optimal shield modulation patterns now. The ancient intelligence is calculating Borg adaptation faster than their collective can process." It was working. The sphere struck with cutting beams, but Enterprise's shields, guided by ancient quantum analysis, rotated to counter frequencies microseconds before impact. Borg weapons lost effectiveness. Federation shields held. And from Pegasus, Atlantis launched another wave of drones that struck the sphere's weakened aft sections. "They're caught in a crossfire across dimensions," Riker observed with grim satisfaction. "No matter which way they turn, they're exposed." But the collective was learning. The sphere began rotating continuously, spreading shield reinforcement across all surfaces simultaneously. Power consumption spiked, but it eliminated vulnerability windows. "They've adapted to our coordination," data reported. "Shield effectiveness decreasing." "Then we escalate," Picard decided. "Colonel Sheppard, what would it take to transport ancient drones through the wormhole directly into their interior?" Silence for 3 heartbeats as McKay processed the implications. That's brilliant and insane, McKay finally said. The drones aren't alive, so dimensional transport should work. We'd need to modify their guidance systems for Federation transport protocols, but yes, we can do it. Sheppard felt the tactical possibilities through his chair link. Captain, give me 2 minutes. 2 minutes turned into 90 seconds because ancient technology responded to necessity with the same urgency the ancients had when they fled the Ori. McKay and Data synchronized drone guidance systems with Federation transport protocols, creating hybrid weapons that could materialize inside Borg shields. Targeting their central plexus, Sheppard transmitted, feeling 12 drones reconfigure through his neural link. The weapons weren't just following programmed instructions anymore, they were accepting transport coordinates from Enterprise's tactical computer. Enterprise, you've got control. Tell me where you need them. On Enterprise's bridge, the tactical officer's fingers flew across his console with the particular intensity of someone doing something unprecedented. Locking coordinates. Ma 12 points inside the sphere. Power distribution nodes, transwarp coil, central vinculum. Make it happen, Picard ordered. The drones vanished from Atlantis's weapons bay in shimmer of blue ancient energy overlaid with golden Federation transport sparkle. They reappeared inside the Borg sphere, materializing in corridors where no weapon should penetrate, and detonated on impact. 12 simultaneous explosions gutted the sphere's internal systems. The central plexus went dark. Power distribution collapsed. 100,000 Borg drones suddenly disconnected from the collective consciousness, standing motionless as their link severed. Direct hit, Data reported. Borg sphere, structural integrity failing. They are attempting to regenerate, but the damage is catastrophic. The sphere limped through space, green lights flickering, odd hull sections venting atmosphere and drones. It tried to retreat toward the wormhole, but Atlantis was waiting. Sheppard launched 50 more drones, conventional attack this time, overwhelming firepower against crippled target. Golden weapons struck in coordinated barrage, each impact tearing through weakened Borg systems. The sphere exploded in cascade of green energy, geometric perfection fragmenting into debris field. Enterprise's shields deflected the expanding wreckage. Atlantis's sensors confirmed no surviving drones, no escape pods, no possibility of regeneration. Borg vessel destroyed, Worf confirmed from Atlantis, satisfaction evident even through dimensional transmission. It was a good death. For us, Picard corrected mildly. For them, it was merely death. But there was no time for celebration. In Alpha Quadrant, Ma's sensors detected 3 more Wraith darts attacking Vega Colony, culling beams activating to dematerialize screaming colonists. And in Pegasus, the Wraith hive ship had reached New Athos orbit. Captain, we need your people now, Sheppard said, watching the hive deploy dart fighters toward the planet's surface. The Wraith just committed to full assault. Understood, Picard replied. Mr. Data, coordinate with Dr. McKay. Route all Starfleet tactical data on the Wraith to Vega Colony's defense forces, and prepare to send our complement through the gateway. Captain, Riker interjected carefully, Starfleet regulations prohibit sending crew into other dimensions without proper authorization and… Commander, we just destroyed a Borg sphere using ancient weapons transported through dimensional wormhole, Picard interrupted. I suspect Starfleet regulations have become largely theoretical at this point. On Atlantis, Teyla watched the hive ship through the control room windows, feeling the Wraith consciousness like pressure against her mind. Thousands of them, hungry after long hibernation, sensing an entire universe of unsuspecting humans beyond the gateway. They know about the Federation, she said quietly. They sense humans who have never been culled, who have no fear of feeding. It excites them. Then we teach them fear, Sheppard replied, standing from the control chair. Worf, you've got tactical command. Teyla, Ronon, you're with me. We're taking jumpers to hit those darts before they reach the surface. Colonel, 3 jumpers against a hive ship's fighter complement? Lorne objected from his station. See, 3 ancient jumpers with Federation sensor data, drone weapons, and crews that have killed Wraith for years, Sheppard corrected. Plus Enterprise providing fire support through the wormhole. We've got advantages the Wraith have never faced. He was moving before anyone could argue further, Teyla and Ronon following with the practice synchronization of 5 years fighting together. Within minutes, 3 puddle jumpers launched from Atlantis, their cloaking technology engaging as they descended toward New Athos. On Enterprise, Geordi coordinated sensor feeds with Worf. I'm tracking 47 Wraith darts in atmosphere. They're spreading out across the continent, hitting population centers. Not population centers, Teyla corrected through the network, piloting her jumper with Athosian precision. Evacuation routes. The Wraith detect where humans are running and intercept them. It is how they hunt. Picard absorbed this tactical information with the particular cold clarity of someone learning an enemy's methods. Then we redirect their hunt. Dr. Crusher, prepare sickbay for incoming wounded, and coordinate with Atlantis Medical. Anyone the Wraith feed on will need immediate treatment. In Jumper 1, Sheppard dropped cloak directly above a Wraith dart that was pursuing fleeing Athosians, its culling beam charging. Ancient drones launched at point-blank range, striking before the Wraith pilot could react. The organic fighter exploded, burning fragments raining into empty fields. One down, Sheppard reported, already recloaking and vectoring toward the next target. Ronon's jumper materialized behind 3 darts in formation, on particle cannon, ancient equivalent of the Federation's phaser, firing continuously. 2 Wraith fighters disintegrated under sustained fire. The third juked left, organic reflexes sensing danger, but Teyla's jumper was already there, drones intercepting and destroying it mid-evasion. The Wraith are adapting their flight patterns, Teyla transmitted. They recognize the ancient technology now. They will become more cautious. Good, Sheppard replied. Cautious Wraith waste time. Time means more Athosians reach safety. Above atmosphere, the hive ship detected its fighters being systematically destroyed. The massive organic vessel, 800 meters of regenerating biotech, began descending toward the planet itself. If the darts couldn't successfully cull, the hive would do it directly. Colonel, the hive is entering atmosphere, Worf reported from Atlantis control room. It is targeting the mountain caves where civilians have taken refuge. Sheppard felt ice in his stomach. A hive ship in atmosphere could sterilize continents. Ancient drones were effective, but he only had 400, and the hive's regenerative hull could withstand dozens of impacts. Enterprise, we have a problem, he transmitted. Picard studied the tactical display showing the hive's descent. 800 meters of living weapon about to cull refugees who'd survived years of Wraith predation. The Federation had faced many horrors, but this, systematic harvesting of sentient beings for sustenance, was something else entirely. Data. Can we transport photon torpedoes through the wormhole directly into that vessel's interior? Data ran calculations. Affirmative. I'm Captain. However, the hive's organic structure may reject foreign matter. The torpedoes could be expelled before detonation. Then we don't give them time to expel, Geordi interjected, understanding Picard's strategy. We transport torpedoes already armed, set to detonate on materialization. They appear inside the hive and explode before the organic systems can react. Precisely, Picard confirmed. How many torpedoes can we transport simultaneously? 12, Data replied. More would overload the dimensional transport protocols. Make them count, Picard ordered. Target their propulsion systems, life support, anything that will cripple mobility. On Vega Colony, the local defense forces, armed with Federation phasers and now guided by Atlantis's tactical data on Wraith, managed to destroy one of the attacking darts, and the organic fighter crashed into the colony's spaceport, burning wreckage spreading across landing pads. But 2 darts remained, and their culling beams activated successfully. Colonists dematerialized in streams of white energy stored in the dart's holding cells for later feeding. Dozens of people gone in seconds. We need ground teams on Vega, Riker said urgently. Security forces to protect civilians during evacuation. Send them, Picard approved, and coordinate with Major Lorne. His Marines have experience fighting Wraith at close quarters. Lorne materialized on Vega Colony's surface with 20 Atlantis Marines, P-90S raised and scanning for targets. The dimensional transport deposited them directly between fleeing colonists and approaching Wraith dart. Light it up, Lorne ordered. Ma P-90 fire raked across the dart's organic hull at close range. The Wraith fighter tried to evade, but at this proximity there was nowhere to go. Sustained automatic weapons fire, something the Wraith rarely faced from Pegasus humans who lacked such technology, tore through regenerative armor faster than it could heal. The dart crashed, sliding across colony streets in shower of sparks and burning biomatter. Confirmed kill, Lorne reported. One more dart detected on sensors. Moving to intercept. Back at New Athos, 12 photon torpedoes materialized inside the descending Hive ship. Engineering, life support, propulsion systems, and one directly in the central hibernation chamber where thousands of Wraith slept. They detonated simultaneously. The Hive shuddered mid-descent, a massive organic structure convulsing as Federation antimatter ripped through internal systems. Propulsion failed. Life support collapsed. The vessel's regenerative capabilities, formidable as they were, couldn't compensate for 12 simultaneous catastrophic injuries. The Hive began falling. "It's coming down hard," McKay transmitted, tracking the descent. "Impact point is, oh no, it's heading for the western continent, population centers." Sheppard saw the trajectory and made instant decision. "All jumpers, formation on me. We're going to guide it down." "Guide 800 meters of falling Hive ship?" Ronon asked incredulously. "Tractor it," Sheppard clarified. 3 puddle jumpers engaged tractor beams simultaneously, ancient technology designed to manipulate objects in space, now repurposed to redirect a dying Hive ship away from populated areas. The strain registered through Sheppard's neural link with his jumper, the small craft protesting as it attempted to alter 800 meters of falling biomass. "It's not enough," Teyla transmitted, her jumper's systems screaming warnings. "The Hive is too massive. We're slowing it but not diverting the trajectory." "Enterprise, we need help," Sheppard called. "Tractor beam through the wormhole now." On Enterprise's bridge, the request registered as tactically absurd and immediately approved. "Make it so," Picard ordered. Data's fingers flew across ops. "Routing tractor beam through dimensional gateway. This is highly experimental." "Everything today is highly experimental," Riker muttered. The Federation tractor beam lanced through the wormhole, spanning dimensional barriers to grip the Wraith Hive from Alpha Quadrant. Ancient and Federation technology combined, 4 tractor systems pulling in coordinated vector that Atlantis' sensors calculated in real time. The Hive's descent angle shifted. Slowly, against momentum and gravity, the dying vessel turned away from populated regions toward empty ocean. "We have it," Data reported. "Current trajectory terminates in planetary ocean, 200 kilometers from nearest landmass." The Hive hit water at terminal velocity, creating tsunami wave that Atlantis' shields extended planet-wide to dampen. The organic ship broke apart on impact, sections sinking into depths, while pieces burned on the surface. No Wraith survivors. No regeneration possible from such catastrophic structural failure. "Hive destroyed," Worf confirmed with satisfaction. "The Wraith threat to New Athos is eliminated." But the victory was incomplete. On Vega Colony, Major Lorne's Marines engaged the final Wraith dart in urban combat, and in the ocean where the Hive fell, Atlantis sensors detected something unexpected. "Colonel, I'm reading life signs," McKay transmitted. "Human life signs. Inside the wreckage." Sheppard felt his stomach drop. The dart storage cells. The Hive was carrying humans it already culled from other worlds. "How many?" Picard asked. "Scanning," McKay replied, fingers racing across ancient console. "Approximately 400 in various states of, various states of feeding. Some are near death. Captain, we need Dr. Crusher down here immediately." Dr. Beverly Crusher materialized in Atlantis' infirmary moments later via dimensional transport, medical kit in hand, and decades of emergency medicine experience activating instantly. Dr. Jennifer Keller stood at the surgical bay, already prepping for mass casualties. "What am I looking at?" Crusher asked, professional composure masking horror at the situation. "Wraith feeding victims," Keller explained grimly. "The Wraith drain life force through their feeding hand. Victims age decades and seconds. Some of these people are physiologically 80 years old, but were 25 before the Wraith fed on them." Crusher scanned the first patient beaming into the infirmary. A young woman who looked elderly, skin wrinkled, hair gray, a body deteriorating from accelerated aging. Is it reversible? Sometimes, Keller replied. There's an ancient retrovirus that can restore some life force if administered quickly enough. But for advanced cases, she gestured to another patient whose vital signs were failing. We're just making them comfortable. Then we save who we can, Crusher said, medical determination overriding emotional response. And we document everything. If the Wraith are coming to Federation space, Starfleet Medical needs to know exactly what we're facing. Over the next hour, Atlantis and Enterprise medical teams worked in coordinated effort across dimensional barriers. Patients beamed from New Athos's ocean wreckage to Atlantis Infirmary, where Keller's team assessed severity, or critical cases transported to Enterprise sickbay, where Crusher's staff provided secondary care. The ancient retrovirus, stored in Atlantis's medical database, replicated and distributed to both facilities. Of 400 rescued, 217 survived. The others had been fed on too extensively, their life force drained beyond medical recovery. Teyla moved through the recovering patients, offering comfort in their languages. She recognized dialects from a dozen Pegasus worlds, all victims of Wraith culling campaigns. Some had been captive for years, stored in hibernation for later feeding. They will need time, she told Crusher quietly. The psychological trauma of Wraith captivity, it does not heal quickly. We have counselors on Enterprise, Crusher replied. Sonny and I suspect your people have experienced treating this kind of trauma. 5 years of it, Teyla confirmed. We will help however we can. On Vega Colony, Lorne's Marines finally cornered the last Wraith dart, but not before it culled 32 colonists. The dart crashed when P-90 fire destroyed its propulsion systems, and from the wreckage emerged the Wraith pilot, pale, desiccated humanoid with feeding hand extended. Starfleet security officers raised phasers, but hesitated. They'd never faced an enemy that fed on sentient life. The Wraith sensed their uncertainty and lunged. Ronon's particle magnum shot obliterated the Wraith's head before it covered 3 meters. They don't hesitate, Ronon told the shocked security team, lowering his weapon. You can't. They see you as food. Either you kill them first, or they feed. Admiral Nechayev's face filled Enterprise's view screen 30 minutes later, and her expression suggested court-martial proceedings were imminent. Captain Picard, I have reports of unauthorized dimensional incursions, deployment of personnel into parallel realities, and engagement with hostile species never cleared by Federation Council. All accurate, Admiral, Picard replied calmly. I can provide detailed tactical reports if required. What I require, Captain, is an explanation for why you're coordinating military operations with extra-dimensional contacts against my explicit orders. Because the alternative was allowing the Borg to assimilate Pegasus Galaxy and the Wraith to cull Federation colonies, Picard said simply. The ancient gateway opened, Admiral. That wasn't our choice. But how we responded was, and we chose survival. Nechayev's expression didn't soften, but something shifted behind her eyes. How many casualties? 2 Federation vessels boarded, 47 crew injured, 12 killed in action. Vega Colony lost 32 civilians to Wraith, culling before we eliminated the threat. Picard paused. We also rescued 217 people from Wraith captivity and destroyed both Borg and Wraith vessels before they could establish footholds in either universe. And Atlantis's casualties? Minimal, Sheppard's voice came through the network. We've been fighting these things for 5 years, Admiral. We know what we're doing. Nechayev studied something off-screen. Tactical reports, probably, detailing the engagement. When she looked back, her expression was calculating rather than condemning. The Federation Council is convening emergency session to address the dimensional gateway situation. In the interim, I'm authorizing continuation of tactical cooperation with Atlantis expedition under formal alliance protocols. She focused on Picard. Which means, Captain, that you're no longer defying orders. You're following them. Congratulations on avoiding court-martial. Thank you, Admiral, Picard replied neutrally. Don't thank me yet. The Council wants both you and Colonel Sheppard to testify about threat assessment from both universes. They need to understand what we're facing. Her tone hardened. Because if that gateway stays open, this won't be the last incursion, and the Federation needs to be prepared. After Nechayev signed off, Riker turned to Picard with a slight smile. So we went from unauthorized dimension hopping to official alliance in one conversation. That might be a record. Political necessity, Picard observed. The Federation faced Borg and Wraith simultaneously and survived only through cooperation with Atlantis. The Council recognizes strategic value when confronted with it. On Atlantis, McKay and Data stood in the database chamber, monitoring the ancient intelligence embedded in the dimensional gateway. The quantum consciousness patterns had stabilized, no longer fluctuating with the urgency of combat. The gateway is permanent, Data concluded after reviewing exotic particle flows. The ancients designed it to remain open once activated. Closing it would require dismantling technology we do not fully understand. So we're stuck with it, McKay said. Our two universes permanently connected whether we like it or not. Not stuck, Data corrected. Linked. The ancients believed certain realities should maintain contact for mutual benefit. Our successful defense validates their logic. McKay pulled up long-term sensor data showing background dimensional readings. Data, look at this. The gateway isn't just connecting our two universes. It's generating harmonic resonance across other dimensional barriers. Data processed the implications. You are suggesting the gateway is searching for the other 21 realities the ancients catalogued, McKay confirmed. The gateway is an ancient system designed to establish multiversal alliance. We activated one connection. It's trying to activate others. Fascinating, Data said, and concerning. In Atlantis's control room, Sheppard stood with Picard's holographic projection. Another benefit of the integrated network, real-time visual communication across dimensions. 21 more universes, Sheppard repeated after hearing McKay's report. The ancients really thought big. They planned for scenarios we cannot yet imagine, Picard replied. But they also gave us tools to face those scenarios together. The Federation Council chamber on Earth filled with representatives from 37 member worlds, all gathered via holographic projection to hear testimony about the greatest strategic shift since first contact with the Borg. Picard stood at the central podium in dress uniform, Sheppard beside him in Atlantis Expedition Blacks. Two commanders from different realities united by ancient design. Counselors, Picard began, voice carrying through the chamber with practiced authority. 6 months ago, the city ship Atlantis accidentally crossed into our universe through dimensional breach. We helped them return home. That act of cooperation created the foundation for what we face today. A permanent gateway linking our realities, built by the ancients 10 million years ago as multiversal defense network. The Vulcan counselor, Teyla, raised her hand with characteristic precision. Captain Picard, you assert this gateway is ancient construction. What evidence supports technology existing for 10 million years without degradation? The ancients achieved what we would classify as near godhood before ascending to higher plane of existence, Sheppard replied, stepping forward. Their technology operates on quantum principles we're still figuring out. The gateway doesn't degrade because it exists partially outside normal space-time. It's maintained by consciousness embedded in dimensional membrane itself. A consciousness, the Andorian counselor interjected skeptically. You're claiming the gateway is sentient? Commander Data's analysis confirms quantum intelligence patterns consistent with directed purpose, Picard explained. The ancient intelligence isn't self-aware in conventional sense, but it executes programmed objectives, establishing dimensional bridges when specific conditions are met. McKay's holographic form appeared beside them, projected from Atlantis. If I may, counselors, the ancient database contains detailed records of 23 parallel dimensions, including yours. They mapped multiversal topography the same way you map stellar cartography, and they built infrastructure to connect allied realities for mutual defense. Defense against what? Asked the human counselor from Alpha Centauri. Against threats that transcend single universes, Sheppard said bluntly. The Wraith in our reality have culled human populations for 10,000 years. The Borg and yours assimilate entire civilizations. The ancients recognized that some threats require multiversal response. That's why they built the gateway, so allied dimensions could help each other survive. The Tellarite counselor huffed. You're proposing formal military alliance with extra-dimensional contacts. The legal implications alone. The legal implications are irrelevant if we're all dead. Admiral Nechayev cut in from her seat. I've reviewed combat reports from both engagements. The Borg sphere that entered Pegasus was destroyed only through combined ancient Federation tactics. The Wraith hive threatening New Athos fell to coordinated assault across dimensional barriers. Neither universe could have succeeded alone. Then we are acknowledging mutual dependency, Teyla observed. Logical, if accurate threat assessment supports this conclusion. Data's holographic form materialized. Counselors, I have compiled statistical analysis of probable outcomes had the gateway not existed. In scenario where Borg sphere successfully assimilated Atlantis, probability of Borg acquiring dimensional travel technology is 94.7%. Subsequent multiversal Borg expansion would be catastrophic, the Vulcan counselor finished. Understood, Commander. And if the Wraith established foothold in Federation space, Sheppard added, you'd face enemy that breeds fast, feeds on sentience, and has perfected predation over millennia. Your member worlds would become feeding grounds. The Wraith don't negotiate, don't accept surrender. They just cull. Silence settled over the chamber, and representatives from worlds that had never faced existential predation processed the reality of universe where humans were livestock. The Council will need time to deliberate formal alliance protocols, the Federation president finally said. However, in the interim, I'm authorizing continuation of tactical cooperation under emergency provisions. Captain Picard, Colonel Sheppard, you will maintain joint defensive posture at the gateway. Understood, Madam President, Picard replied. As the Council session adjourned, Sheppard and Picard found themselves in Enterprise's observation lounge, watching the wormhole shimmer against the stars. On the other side, Atlantis maintained symmetrical watch in Pegasus space. They'll approve the alliance, Picard said quietly. The Council has no choice, but it will come with restrictions, oversight, or regulations. Bureaucracy, Sheppard finished. Yeah, we have that too. IOA loves telling us how to fight wars they've never experienced. The price of democratic governance, Picard observed. Those who fight answer to those who don't. It's frustrating, but necessary. Is it? Sheppard challenged. Because from where I stand, we just saved both universes by ignoring the bureaucrats and doing what needed to be done. Picard smiled slightly. A sentiment I've expressed myself on occasion. But Colonel, consider this. If we operate without civilian oversight, we become exactly what the ancients warned against. Military force without accountability. The gateway gives us immense power. Someone needs to ensure we use it wisely. Before Sheppard could respond, McKay's voice cut through their comm badges. Colonel, Captain, we have a situation. The gateway is doing something new. They reached Atlantis' database chamber to find McKay and Data staring at holographic displays showing the dimensional membrane in flux. The stable wormhole connecting their universes pulsed with exotic energy patterns neither scientist had seen before. The gateway is expanding its search parameters, Data reported. Quantum resonance has increased 17.3%. It is actively scanning adjacent dimensional barriers. Looking for the other realities, McKay confirmed. The ancient intelligence is trying to establish additional connections. And I think, yes, there. It's found something. On the holographic display, a second aperture began forming. Not in Pegasus or Alpha Quadrant, but in entirely new dimensional coordinates that the ancient database labeled Dimension Alterra-Twelve. Another universe is connecting, Sheppard said, watching exotic particles coalesce into stable wormhole. Where does this one lead? McKay pulled up ancient star charts, overlaid with sensor data from the new gateway. Unknown stellar configurations, different galactic structure. The database has minimal information, just designation and threat classification. What's the threat classification? Picard asked, though dread already settled in his stomach. Data processed the ancient notation. Translation indicates apex predator civilization. Warning level, extreme. Recommended contact protocol, avoid. The ancients marked an entire dimension as too dangerous to contact, McKay said slowly. Whatever's in dimension Alterra-Twelve scared beings who ascended to higher planes of existence. Through the newly forming gateway, sensors detected artificial energy signatures, ships, massive ones, moving toward the aperture with evident purpose. They know we're here, Sheppard observed, tactical instincts screaming warnings. Someone on the other side detected the gateway opening and they're investigating. Shields up, Picard ordered across the network. Both vessels battle ready. We don't know what's coming through. Atlantis and Enterprise moved to defensive positions on their respective sides of the original gateway, weapons armed and ready. The new aperture continued expanding, exotic particles streaming across dimensional barriers as reality prepared to introduce civilizations that should never have met. So, I'm detecting weapon signatures, Worf reported from Atlantis Tactical. The approaching vessels are heavily armed. Configuration unknown, but power output exceeds anything in our databases. Hail them, Picard said. Standard first contact protocols. The communication went out in multiple languages and formats. Federation Standard, ancient mathematical sequences expressing peaceful intent. For 30 seconds, there was no response. Then, the new gateway fully stabilized, and through it came ships that made both commanders' breath catch. Sleek organic vessels larger than Wraith hives, their hulls crawling with technology that seemed to blur the line between machine and living tissue. Energy signatures that registered simultaneously as biological life, artificial intelligence, and something else entirely. Consciousness, embodied in starship form. And across all frequencies, a transmission in perfect Federation Standard and ancient simultaneously. You have awakened the gateway. The harvest begins. McKay's hands froze on his console. Oh no, no. Rodney, what are we looking at? Sheppard demanded. The database just unlocked more files. McKay's voice shook. Dimension Alterra-12. The ancients didn't just avoid contact, they sealed this dimension's gateway. They classified this civilization as the Harvesters, species that consumes entire realities. How do you consume a reality? Riker asked. Data pulled up the newly unlocked ancient files, processing information at android speed. According to these records, the Harvesters developed technology to extract energy from dimensional barriers themselves. They drain universes of exotic matter, collapsing them into void. The ancients encountered them 10 million years ago and barely escaped. And we just opened the door, Sheppard said flatly. 3 Harvester ships emerged fully through the gateway, energy weapons charging with power signatures that made both Atlantis and Enterprise sensor arrays red-line warnings. The vessels didn't attack immediately. They surveyed, analyzed, catalogued their new prey. Captain Picard, Colonel Sheppard, the transmission came again, voice synthesized from 1,000 merged consciousness. Your gateway technology is ancient construction, impressive survival, but ultimately futile. All realities feed the harvest. All consciousness joins the collective. Another collective, Worf muttered. Why is it always collectives? Because individual predators eventually die, Teyla replied, her empathic senses reeling from contact with the Harvester's merged consciousness. But collective predators sustain themselves by consuming everything they encounter. The Borg assimilate technology. The Wraith feed on life. These creatures consume existence itself. The lead Harvester ship moved closer to the gateway, scanning both universes with evident satisfaction. 2 realities, rich in exotic matter and dimensional energy. 21 more accessible through your network. You have given us feast beyond measure. Picard and Sheppard locked eyes across the dimensional link. 2 commanders recognizing that the ancient gateway, designed for mutual defense, had just become doorway for apex predators that made the Borg and Wraith look like minor threats. Recommendations? Picard asked. Close the gateway, Sheppard replied immediately. Even if we have to destroy the ancient technology maintaining it. Problem, McKay transmitted, fingers racing across ancient console as he analyzed the gateway's structure. The aperture isn't just maintained by technology we can destroy. It's sustained by quantum entanglement across dimensional membranes. To close it, we'd need to sever connections existing at subatomic level throughout both universes simultaneously. How long would that take? Sheppard demanded, watching the 3 Harvester ships position themselves in triangular formation around the gateway. Best case? 72 hours to develop the proper destabilization sequence. Worst case? It's impossible, and we're stuck with permanent dimensional highway to nightmare civilization. Data's positronic brain processed tactical options at superhuman speed. Dr. McKay is correct. However, immediate closure may not be optimal strategy. The harvesters have already detected our universes. If we close the gateway while they remain aware of our dimensional coordinates, they may force additional breaches. Better the devil you know than the one hunting you blind, Riker translated. Precisely, Data confirmed. The lead harvester ship broadcast again, its merged consciousness radiating predatory patience. You deliberate defensive options, admirable. The ancients did the same 10 million years ago. They fought brilliantly. They still failed. Picard stood from his command chair, moving to the view screen as if physical proximity to the threat would reveal tactical advantage. You claim the ancients failed, yet they sealed your gateway. They clearly succeeded in containing you. Temporary containment, the harvesters replied, multiple voices speaking in perfect unison. The ancients fled. They abandoned infrastructure rather than face prolonged engagement. Now that infrastructure reactivates, and you lack the ancients' power. You cannot ascend. You cannot flee. You can only feed us. On Atlantis, Zelenka pulled up ancient combat records from the harvester encounter. The database shows 3 major engagements between ancients and harvesters. The ancients won tactically but lost strategically. Every battle cost more resources than they could sustain. The harvesters simply waited, regenerated, and attacked again. War of attrition, Worf observed. They are patient predators. Very patient, Teyla added, sensing the harvesters' collective consciousness through the dimensional barrier. They have consumed entire realities. They can wait decades, centuries if necessary. Time favors them because they are eternal. Sheppard studied the harvester ships through Atlantis' sensors. The vessels weren't just advanced, they were impossible. Hull composition that registered as both solid matter and energy field. Propulsion that seemed to manipulate space-time directly. Weapons that drew power from dimensional barriers themselves. McKay, can we target their ships the same way we hit the Borg? Transport ancient drones inside their hulls? Already tried, McKay replied grimly. Their shields aren't shields, they're dimensional displacement fields. Anything we transport toward them shifts into adjacent dimensional space and appears elsewhere. The harvesters exist slightly out of phase with normal reality. Then we bring them into phase, Geordi suggested, analyzing the sensor data from Enterprise engineering. If they're using dimensional displacement, we generate inverse frequency. Pull them fully into our space-time where they're vulnerable to conventional weapons. Data's fingers flew across ops. The ancient gateway generates dimensional harmonics. If we reverse those harmonics and focus them on harvester vessels, we force them into full materialization, McKay finished, catching the logic. But that requires using the gateway itself as weapon, and if we damage it, we risk collapsing the only controlled access point we have, Picard completed, leaving the harvesters free to force breaches wherever they choose. The tactical problem crystallized with brutal clarity. They needed the gateway intact for defense, but the gateway itself enabled the harvester threat. Classic strategic paradox. There is another option, Teyla said quietly. We give them what they expect. All eyes turned to the Athosian warrior. She stood before the holographic display showing both universes, expression calm despite the existential threat. The harvesters believe we are prey because we react as prey. Defensive, fearful, seeking to hide behind closed gates. The ancients fled from them, validating that assessment. But what if we do not flee? You're proposing offensive action, Worf said, Klingon appreciation evident. Attack into their dimension. Exactly, Teyla confirmed. The harvesters have grown complacent feeding on fleeing prey. They expect us to seal our reality and cower, if instead we bring the fight to them. We demonstrate we're not prey at all, Sheppard finished, tactical mind already running scenarios. Captain, what do your regulations say about preemptive strikes against existential threats from other dimensions? They don't, Picard admitted, because until today, the scenario was theoretical. However, he paused, considering. There is precedent. When faced with species demonstrating clear intent to destroy the Federation, Starfleet has authorized first strike options. And the harvesters just announced their intent to consume our realities, Riker noted. That seems pretty clear. Admiral Nechayev appeared on the view screen, having monitored the conversation. Captain Picard, Colonel Sheppard, I'm authorizing joint military operation into Dimension Alterra-Twelve. Rules of engagement. Eliminate harvester capability to threaten either universe by any means necessary. Admiral, we have limited intelligence on their dimension, Picard cautioned. We'd be attacking blind. Then gather intelligence first, Nechayev replied. But make no mistake, if the harvesters believe they can consume our realities unchallenged, we will prove them catastrophically wrong. The Federation did not survive the Borg by cowering. Neither will we survive this by sealing our doors and hoping they go away. McKay pulled up sensor data from the new gateway. The ancient database has some information on harvester dimension structure. Their reality is older than ours, more collapsed. They've already consumed most of their own dimensional energy, which is why they seek other universes. A dying reality seeking to drain living ones, Data observed. Parasitic on multiversal scale. How many harvesters are we talking about? Lorne asked from Tactical. 3 ships we can handle. 3,000 is a different scenario. Zelenka analyzed ancient records. Database indicates harvester civilization consists of approximately 47 merged consciousness clusters, each controlling between 10 and 50 vessels. Total fleet estimate, 1,000 to 2,000 ships. Silence fell across both command centers. 1 to 2,000 ships, each more advanced than anything either universe had encountered. Against that, they had 1 ancient city and 1 Federation starship. We need more firepower, Sheppard said bluntly. A lot more. Agreed, Picard replied. Admiral, what assets can Starfleet commit? Nechayev consulted tactical displays. The Sovereign-class Valiant is still 4 hours out. The Defiant-class São Paulo arrives in 2. Beyond that, we're pulling ships from border patrols, but full fleet mobilization requires 12 to 18 hours. We don't have 12 hours, McKay interjected. The harvesters are scanning our dimensional barriers now. In approximately 8 hours, they'll map our entire reality and identify optimal extraction points. After that, they can breach anywhere. Then we hit them in 6 hours, Sheppard decided, before they finish mapping us. We go through that gateway with everything we've got and we make them understand we're not the ancients. We don't run. Colonel, your bravado is noted, Picard said carefully, but 6 hours gives us minimal time to coordinate fleet action, plan assault vectors, or develop effective countermeasures to their dimensional displacement technology. Then we don't plan perfectly, Sheppard replied. We plan fast. The harvesters expect calculated ancient precision. We give them something else. Human adaptability under pressure. We improvise. Ronon growled approval. I like this plan. We kill them before they're ready. There is tactical logic, Worf admitted reluctantly. Striking before enemy reconnaissance completes denies them strategic advantage. However, attacking with incomplete intelligence is exactly what we do in Pegasus every time we gate to New World, Teyla interjected. We adapt. We survive. The Wraith are tactically superior in every measurable way, yet we continue defeating them because we are unpredictable. Data processed the strategic discussion with android precision. The probability of mission success with current intelligence and assets is approximately 11.4%. However, probability of successful defense if we allow harvesters to complete reconnaissance is 3.1%. Offensive action, while risky, increases survival odds by 7.3 percentage points. Sometimes the math says attack, Riker observed. Picard stood silent for 30 seconds, command officer weighing impossible choices between bad options and worse ones. Finally, he nodded. We attack in 6 hours. Enterprise leads Federation forces. Atlantis leads Pegasus contingent. Combined assault through the gateway with objective of destroying harvester capability to threaten our dimensions. 6 hours became 5 hours and 43 minutes of organized chaos across 2 universes. Every available Starfleet vessel within range received immediate recall orders. The Sovereign-class Valiant, Defiant-class São Paulo, 3 Miranda-class cruisers, and 2 Nebula-class science vessels converged on Enterprise's coordinates. In Pegasus, Atlantis transmitted emergency gate addresses to Allied forces. The Daedalus-class battlecruiser Apollo materialized from hyperspace, accompanied by 3 Traveler generational ships and a wing of Genie warships. It wasn't a fleet designed for this fight. It was every ship either universe could scrape together on impossible notice. Combined force totals 16 vessels, data reported from Enterprise Ops, analyzing the assembled armada. Or total crew complement approximately 6,000 across both fleets, against estimated harvester strength of 1 to 2,000 ships. We're not fighting all of them, Sheppard clarified, watching the tactical display from Atlantis. We're targeting their command infrastructure. The harvesters operate as merged consciousness. Destroy the central nodes coordinating them, and the rest become disorganized. Decapitation strike, Colonel Stephen Caldwell said from Apollo's bridge, the experienced Earth vessel commander immediately grasping the strategy. Like cutting off a snake's head. Question is, where's the head? McKay pulled up sensor data from the gateway, ancient technology penetrating into dimension Alterra-12 with increasing clarity. The harvester dimension has a central nexus, a massive structure at the reality's gravitational center where dimensional energy collects. The database calls it the convergence. That's where their merged consciousness physically resides. On the holographic display, the convergence appeared, a structure defying conventional description. Part space station, part living organism, part wound in reality itself. Tens of thousands of kilometers across, crackling with exotic energy as it literally fed on the dying universe around it. That's what we're hitting, Sheppard confirmed. We go through fast, target the convergence, destroy it, and extract before they mobilize full response. A raid, Worf said with Klingon approval. Strike hard, withdraw before enemy reinforcements arrive. You honorable tactic. Picard studied the convergence with command officer's tactical assessment. The structure is enormous. Destroying it with conventional weapons would require sustained bombardment we cannot maintain while under attack. We need a single devastating strike. I may have a solution, Geordi transmitted from engineering. The convergence feeds on dimensional energy. If we overload it, feed it more energy than it can process, it could suffer cascading failure, like overloading a computer processor. How do we deliver that much energy? Caldwell asked. McKay's fingers flew across his console, calculations streaming past. ZP-MIS ancient zero-point modules extract energy from quantum vacuum, essentially unlimited power. If we rig several ZPMs to overload simultaneously and detonate them inside the convergence, we turn their feeding mechanism into bomb, Zelenka finished, seeing the logic. The convergence tries to absorb ZPM energy, cannot process that much at once, suffers catastrophic overload. How many ZPMs? Sheppard asked, though he already knew the answer would hurt. 4, McKay replied grimly. And they need to be placed at specific points inside the convergence for maximum effect, which means someone has to get inside that thing and plant them manually. Silence fell across the command network. Getting inside the Harvester's central consciousness hub while under fire from thousand-ship fleet was suicide mission by any reasonable assessment. I'll do it, Ronon said immediately. Give me a jumper, 4 ZPMs, and coordinates, or I'll plant them. You'll need backup, Lorne added. My Marines are trained for hostile insertion. We're going with you. As am I, Worf stated. This mission requires warriors who do not fear death. Teyla placed her hand on Ronon's shoulder. And you require someone who can sense the Harvester's consciousness patterns to navigate their structure and avoid detection. I go as well. Sheppard wanted to order them to stand down, to find safer options that didn't exist. But he'd commanded in Pegasus long enough to recognize when his people had already made their choice. Puddle Jumper 1, he said quietly. Full drone complement, enhanced shields, and every tactical advantage we can give you. But understand, this is one way until we confirm the convergence is destroyed. You'll be trapped in their dimension with no extraction guarantee. Understood, Colonel, Lorne replied for them all. Picard watched this exchange, seeing the bonds forged through years of survival warfare. Bonds the Federation, for all its ideals, rarely achieved because exploration rarely demanded such sacrifice. These people weren't just crew. They were family choosing to die together. Enterprise will provide covering fire during your approach, Picard said. We'll draw Harvester attention while you infiltrate the convergence. The combined fleet will establish defensive perimeter at the gateway. Admiral Nechayev added, having transported to Enterprise for direct command. Any Harvester ships attempting to enter our universe get destroyed. We hold that line no matter what. The Sovereign-class Valiant's captain appeared on the network. Admiral, we're equipped with quantum slipstream drive. We can provide rapid response support anywhere in the battlespace. The Apollo has Asgard beam weapons, Caldwell added. We can target Harvester vessels directly. No shields can block Asgard transport technology. Slowly, impossible plan took shape. Combined fleet would assault through the gateway in 3 waves. First wave draws fire and establishes beachhead. Second wave targets Harvester command ships. Third wave secures extraction corridor. Meanwhile, Ronon's team infiltrates the convergence under cloak and plants ZPMs. Timing is critical, Data calculated. The ZPM overload will generate dimensional shockwave affecting entire Harvester reality. All vessels must withdraw before detonation or be caught in collapse. How long from planting to detonation? Sheppard asked. 30 minutes, McKay replied. That's minimum time for ZPMs to synchronize quantum frequencies. After that, he pulled up simulations showing catastrophic energy release. Everything within 50,000 kilometers of the convergence gets vaporized. Then we plant, extract, and run like hell, Ronon summarized. In Puddle Jumper 1's cargo bay, 4 ZPMs sat in ancient stasis containers, each crystal glowing with barely contained exotic energy. McKay had spent 3 hours rigging them for simultaneous overload, triple-checking calculations because miscalibration meant premature detonation. These are tuned to Harvester dimensional frequencies, he explained to Ronon's team, on hands still shaking from exhaustion and terror at what they were attempting. Plant them at coordinates I've loaded into your HUDs. Activate them in sequence. Then get the hell out before the 30-minute countdown expires. And if we can't get out? Ronon asked bluntly. McKay met his eyes. Then you die stopping creatures that feed on entire universes. There are worse ways to go. Indeed, Ronon replied, unconsciously echoing Teal'c. The combined fleet assembled in attack formation. Enterprise at center, flanked by Atlantis and Apollo, with smaller vessels in supporting positions. 16 ships against dimension full of predators. The odds were mathematically absurd. All vessels report ready, Worf confirmed from tactical. Picard stood from his command chair, straightening his uniform with the same gesture he'd used before every impossible battle. This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard to all ships. Today, we face enemy unlike anything either universe has encountered. The Harvesters believe we are prey. They believe we will flee as the Ancients did. They are wrong. His voice carried across dimensional barriers, reaching every crew member in both fleets. We stand together, Federation and Atlantis Expedition, 2 realities united against those who would consume us. We fight not just for survival, but to prove that predators, no matter how ancient or powerful, will always fail against prey that refuses to run. On Atlantis, Sheppard added his own words. The Ancients built the gateway as defense network. Today we use it as launching point for counterattack. We show the Harvesters what humans do when cornered. We bare our teeth and we fight back. The fleet advanced toward the gateway in precise formation. All ships, Admiral Nechayev commanded, execute Operation Harvest Moon. Engage. 16 vessels plunged through dimensional barrier into reality, dying from 10 million years of systematic consumption. The Harvester dimension appeared on view screens, stars dim and fading, space itself seeming depleted of energy, everything tinged with gray emptiness of universe being slowly drained. And waiting for them, the Harvesters. Ships materialized from dimensional folds, organic mechanical hybrids larger than any vessel in either fleet. Weapons charged with exotic energy. Merged consciousness broadcast one message: you should have fled. The first Harvester salvo struck Enterprise's shields with energy that shouldn't exist. Weaponized dimensional collapse beams that tried to erase sections of the ship from reality itself. The shields held, barely, ancient enhanced modulation preventing complete obliteration. Return fire, all weapons, Picard commanded. Quantum torpedoes and phaser arrays lanced toward the nearest Harvester vessel, striking its dimensional displacement field. The weapons phased through the target exactly as McKay predicted, reappearing in empty space thousands of kilometers away. Conventional weapons ineffective, Worf reported. They remain out of phase. Apollo, execute Asgard beam targeting, Caldwell ordered. Are the Daedalus-class battlecruisers advanced Asgard weapons, locked onto harvester vessels, transport-based technology that didn't require projectiles to cross space. White beams materialized inside enemy hulls, bypassing dimensional displacement entirely. 3 harvester ships exploded as Asgard beams tore through their internal systems. The merged consciousness registered surprise. First casualties in millennia of unchallenged predation. Target confirmed vulnerable to Asgard technology, data reported. However, they are adapting their displacement fields to block transport signatures. Then we hit them before they finish adapting, Sheppard transmitted from Atlantis. 200 ancient drones launched in Golden Swarm, with each weapon drawing energy from quantum vacuum, power signature the harvesters couldn't displace because it came from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Drones struck home. Harvester vessels erupted in cascading explosions as ancient technology proved, once again, that some weapons transcended conventional defense. They're pulling back, Riker observed as the harvester formation retreated. Regrouping. No, Teyla corrected from Puddle Jumper 1, her empathic senses reading the merged consciousness. They're studying us, cataloging our capabilities. They've never faced prey that fights effectively. This is new to them. Ronon's jumper streaked toward the convergence under cloak, the massive structure growing larger on sensors with each passing second. Up close, it defied comprehension. Millions of ships merged into single organism. E-consciousness, flowing through organic technological hybrid architecture that pulsed with stolen dimensional energy. Reading 4 primary energy nodes, Lorne reported, scanning with ancient sensors. Those must be our target points for the ZPMs. And about 10,000 harvester ships between us and them, Ronon observed. Then we use what they don't expect, Worf said, studying tactical display. Their consciousness is merged. They think collectively. Individual initiative is foreign to them. So we act individually, Teyla understood. 4 teams. 4 ZPMs. 4 simultaneous insertions at different points. The merged consciousness cannot track independent actions as effectively. The jumper dropped cloak long enough to deploy 4 transport signatures. Ronon to Node 1, Lorne, and 3 Marines to Node 2. See Worf and 2 Starfleet security officers to Node 3, Teyla to Node 4. Each carried a ZPM and 20 minutes to plant it before extraction window closed. Ronon materialized inside harvester structure, particle magnum raised. The interior was nightmare geometry, corridors that bent in impossible directions, walls that seemed to breathe, technology and biology merged until distinction became meaningless. And everywhere, the whisper of merged consciousness. "Welcome, warrior," the harvester's voice echoed through his mind. "You bring energy to feed us. How kind." "Yeah, here's your feeding," Ronon muttered, planting the ZPM at coordinates McKay had specified. Ancient technology interfaced with harvester systems, quantum frequencies beginning synchronization. Timer started. 30 minutes. At Node 2, Lorne's Marines fought through harvester drones, autonomous extensions of the merged consciousness that attacked with coordinated precision. P-90 fire brought 3 down, but more kept coming. "Move," Lorne ordered, placing his ZPM as Marines provided covering fire. Package delivered, exfiltrating now. Worf reached Node 3 to find it defended by what could only be described as harvester warrior drones, cybernetic organisms designed for combat. His bat'leth sang through the air, Klingon blade meeting organic metal limbs in shower of sparks and ichor. "For the Empire," Worf roared, more because battle fury demanded it than because the Empire had any stake in this fight. ZPM planted, timer active. Teyla found Node 4 undefended, which terrified her more than opposition would have. The harvesters knew she was there. She felt their merged consciousness watching, studying, learning from her presence. "Why do you fight?" their voice whispered through her mind. Your reality will feed us eventually. We are patient. We are eternal. You are predators, Teyla replied, planting the final ZPM. And even apex predators can be hunted. You are a Thosian, the harvesters observed, accessing her memories through proximity to their consciousness. Your people ran from the Wraith for generations. You understand prey instinct. Why resist what you cannot defeat? Because we learned, Teyla said, activating the ZPM. Prey that refuses to remain prey can become predator. You should have learned that from the ancients. The ancients fled. We won't. All 4 ZPMs synchronized. 30 minutes until detonation. Extraction teams. I move, Sheppard transmitted as Jumper 1 uncloaked to recover the infiltrators. But harvester ships had triangulated their position. Hundreds of vessels converged. We're not going to make it, Lorne said, watching sensor display as harvester net closed. Enterprise to Jumper 1, Picard's voice cut through. We're coming for you. Hold position. The Federation Pegasus fleet punched through harvester lines with combined fury. Enterprise's quantum torpedoes cleared path while Atlantis's drones destroyed anything that moved. Apollo beamed harvester ships directly into nearby stars. The smaller vessels provided covering fire, buying seconds that meant survival. Puddle Jumper 1's transporter activated, pulling all 4 teams back aboard, just as harvester weapons converged on their previous positions. Got them, Ronon confirmed. Everyone aboard. We're clear. All vessels, execute withdrawal, Admiral Nechayev ordered. The fleet turned as one, accelerating toward the gateway. Behind them, the convergence pulsed with increasing intensity as 4 ZPMs began catastrophic overload sequence. The merged consciousness finally understood what was happening. You planted weapons inside us. Clever prey. Harvester ships abandoned pursuit of the fleet and converged on the convergence instead, attempting to remove the ZPMs before detonation. But McKay had designed the packages to interface directly with harvester systems. Removing them would trigger immediate detonation rather than 30-minute delay. They're trapped, McKay observed with vicious satisfaction. Try to remove the ZPMs. They explode now. Leave them in place. They explode in... He checked countdown. Maxi, 18 minutes. The fleet crossed back through the gateway into their own universes, taking defensive positions on the home side. Harvester ships attempted to follow, but concentrated fire from 16 vessels created kill zone at the aperture. Nothing got through. 15 minutes to detonation, Data reported. All vessels safely extracted. They waited. Seconds became minutes. The gateway showed harvester dimension beyond, the convergence visible as massive dark shape against dying stars, still pulsing with stolen energy, still feeding. Still dying. At 30 seconds, the merged consciousness broadcast final message across dimensional barriers. Impressive! Perhaps you are not prey after all. Perhaps you are... The transmission cut off. 4 ZPMs detonated simultaneously, and the explosion registered across dimensional barriers as a reality-ending cataclysm. 4 ZPMs overloading simultaneously didn't just destroy the convergence. They triggered chain reaction in the exotic energy the structure had been hoarding for millennia. Every stolen jewel of dimensional power released at once in cascade that consumed the convergence, the harvester ship surrounding it, and expanded outward at significant fraction of light speed. Through the gateway, both fleets watched a sphere of annihilation expand across the dying harvester dimension. Stars already dim from systematic energy drain winked out completely. Space itself seemed to scream as dimensional barriers collapsed inward. The harvester dimension is suffering catastrophic structural failure, Data reported, our android voice conveying information his positronic brain could barely process. The ZPM detonations destabilized fundamental quantum framework. The reality itself is collapsing. How long? Picard asked. Complete dimensional collapse in approximately 14 hours. After that, dimension Alterra-12 will cease to exist. On Atlantis, McKay stared at sensor readings showing universe dying in accelerated time frame. We didn't just destroy the harvesters, we killed their entire reality. They killed it themselves, Teyla replied quietly. They fed on their own dimension for millions of years, draining it until nothing remained but emptiness. We simply accelerated the inevitable. The gateway to dimension Alterra-12 began flickering, exotic particles streaming erratically as the dimensional membrane on the other side destabilized. Within minutes, the aperture collapsed entirely. Ancient technology recognizing there was no reality left to connect to. Gateway to Harvester Dimension closed, Worf confirmed. The ancient intelligence has sealed the connection permanently. Silence settled across both command centers. 16 ships floating in space, 6,000 crew members processing what they'd just accomplished. They'd invaded another universe, destroyed its apex predator civilization, and triggered dimensional collapse that would erase entire reality from existence. Genocidal by any measure, Picard said quietly to Riker. We just killed an entire species and their dimension. A species that announced intent to consume our realities, Riker replied. Self-defense on multiversal scale. Necessary, Picard agreed. But still genocide. That burden stays with us. On Atlantis, Sheppard stood at the control room windows, watching Enterprise hold position across the dimensional gateway that had started everything 6 months ago. Two universes connected by ancient design, now bonded by shared military action that saved both, but cost an entire reality. The Council won't like this, McKay observed, pulling up preliminary reports for Federation testimony. We destabilized dimensional barriers, triggered reality collapse, committed what technically qualifies as multiversal war crime. We survived, Sheppard cut him off. That's what matters. The Harvesters were coming for us whether we fought or not. At least this way, we controlled the engagement. Colonel Sheppard, Admiral Nechayev appeared on view screen, exhaustion evident beneath command composure. More preliminary casualty reports show 43 dead across the fleet, 172 wounded. Apollo took heavy damage but remains spaceworthy. All vessels accounted for. Acknowledged, Admiral. And the Gateway Network? The ancient intelligence has suspended additional dimensional searches, Data reported, appearing beside Nechayev. It appears to have recognized that not all realities catalogued by the ancients should be contacted. The gateway to our two universes remains stable, but connections to the other 21 dimensions have been postponed pending further analysis. Probably wise, Sheppard replied. If the Harvesters were the ancients' warning about avoid contact, I'd hate to see what else is out there. McKay pulled up the ancient database entries. He now significantly expanded with combat data from both engagements. The database has updated its threat classifications. Our universes are now designated Allied Defense Network, Tier 1. We're officially recognized as ancient successors for defensive purposes. What does that mean practically? Picard asked. It means the gateway technology will respond to our commands, Data explained. The ancient intelligence has granted us authority over dimensional bridge operations. We can open or close connections, establish new gateways to allied realities, or seal our universes entirely if threatened. Control over multiversal infrastructure, Nechayev said slowly. The Federation Council will want extensive oversight protocols. As will the IOA, Sheppard added, thinking of Atlantis' civilian oversight. Politicians from two universes arguing about dimensional policy. This should be entertaining. 3 weeks later, Atlantis and Enterprise held station on opposite sides of the gateway, now designated Dimensional Nexus Alpha by Federation Cartography and the Bridge by Pegasus humans who preferred simpler terminology. A permanent exchange program had been established. Starfleet officers rotating through Atlantis to learn ancient technology and Wraith combat tactics, while Atlantis personnel served aboard Federation vessels studying advanced sensors and diplomatic protocols. Ronon had become unofficial combat instructor for Starfleet Marines. Worf spent weeks on Atlantis, teaching their security teams Klingon close-quarters techniques. McKay and Data published joint paper on dimensional mechanics that won theoretical physics awards in both universes simultaneously. Geordi and Zelenka designed hybrid transporter ancient beaming system that revolutionized personnel transfer. Dr. Crusher and Dr. Keller established medical exchange program treating Wraith-feeding victims and Borg assimilation survivors with combined Federation ancient techniques. The Tok'ra expressed interest in Federation alliance, seeing potential for Starfleet support against remaining Goa'uld system lords. The Traveler ships began exploring Alpha Quadrant trade routes. The genie requested Federation technology assistance in rebuilding their industrial base. Two universes, once separated by dimensional barriers, now learning to function as allied civilization. "It's working," Teyla observed, when standing with Sheppard in Atlantis control room as Federation delegation beamed aboard for another diplomatic conference. The ancient plan, mutual defense becoming mutual cooperation. The ancients knew what they were doing, Sheppard agreed. Build the bridges when nobody needs them, so they're there when crisis comes. We proved the concept works. And now we maintain it, Picard added, his holographic projection appearing beside them. Two universes stronger together than separate. The Borg learned that. The Wraith learned that. And the Harvesters? He paused. They learned it too late. Through Atlantis's windows, the dimensional gateway shimmered with stable, exotic particles, no longer threat but promise. Beyond it, Enterprise patrolled Alpha Quadrant while behind Atlantis. New Athos thrived under protection of city that had crossed universes and returned stronger. The ancient database continued cataloging the other 21 dimensions, but now with human oversight, both Federation and Pegasus leadership reviewing each potential contact before activation. Some realities showed promise for alliance. Others carried warnings even the ancients had feared. But whatever came through those gateways, two universes now stood ready to face it together. Sheppard watched a Starfleet officer laugh with an Athosian trader in Atlantis's mess hall, cultural exchange happening organically, now that dimensional barriers no longer separated them. McKay argued physics with a Vulcan scientist. Marines from both universes compared combat stories. "You know," he said to Picard's hologram, "yes, 6 months ago, I thought crossing dimensions was the craziest thing that would ever happen to me." "And now?" Picard asked with a slight smile. "Now I'm wondering which of those other 21 universes we'll have to save next." "Indeed," Picard replied, borrowing Teal'c's favorite word. "Though perhaps next time, we'll have advance warning." The gateway pulsed with ancient technology, dimensional bridge connecting allies across reality itself. The ancients had built it 10 million years ago, planning for a day when successor civilizations would need each other's strength. That day had come, and humanity, in two universes, had proven worthy of their legacy.